Welcome to Not Your Average Neighbor, the podcast celebrating inspiring individuals and the amazing work they do in our community. I'm Ann Roushar, your host, inviting you to join me as we shine a light on stories of resilience, connection, and good news. Let's build a neighborhood that uplifts and inspires, one story at a time. Howdy, neighbors. It's Ann Roushar here, Not Your Average Neighbor. And today I am so excited to introduce you to a Not Your Average Neighbor guest, my friend and colleague, Travis Bushaw. Travis is a teacher, leader, and speaker, a coach, and has used his 16 years in the real estate industry to be able to now focus on leadership development and agent training. As the director of sales at C21 Signature Real Estate and as an instructor for Iowa Realtors, Travis has a passion for maximizing agents' potential. Currently the state president for Iowa Realtors, woot woot, and he also serves nationally on multiple committees for the National Association of Realtors. Travis and his wife, Dr. Erica Bushaw, who also is a realtor, that's exciting, and they live in Northeast Iowa with their two kids, Jackson and Adelia. So please help me welcome Travis.
Thank
Good
you, Ann.
morning, my friend. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. I'm good. It's good to see you. I
Good
love
to
just
see
the vibrancy of everything I get to see on your screen right now. It makes me happy. Good stuff.
Well, I got to stand out some way. So color does it
You
for me.
make it work, and I love it. So good to see
Well,
you.
thank you so much. I like to do like an introduction of how we know each other, and
Yes.
this one is comical. This one will make our fellow realtors and colleagues and friends probably laugh. I've made many faux pas. Hey, I actually got your name right, which
You
is
did.
great.
I heard you say something guest, and I heard a G starting, and I'm like, she's gonna say my name wrong right now. This is gonna be wonderful because we're not
I'm
recording. And you
reading.
didn't. You nailed it. You were good. But I was hoping
See,
because that would have been
but
the
it
all-time
might
best version.
happen. It
Yeah,
might happen.
it'd be
And
good.
remember I made up the name Gravis, so that's
Great.
what you are now.
Good.
But to back up, Anne myself makes a lot of mistakes when talking aloud sometimes. And so we're gonna share the story.
Good. It's
We're
good.
going to
Love
share
it.
the story of how we were at a beautiful dinner for the Cedar Rapids Area Association of Realtors. And we were sitting there talking to our friend Chris. And there may have been wine involved. I'm
There
not going to
was. It
lie. There
may
may
have.
have been
Yes.
wine.
Yes.
And he, how it came up, but he said, no, you tell it. You tell it.
I will.
Because you were
Well, let
watching
me
it
preface
happen.
this with also, Anne has a tendency to call me by the wrong name,
Yes.
not
Yes.
intentionally. But
No.
Gavin Blair is our CEO for Iowa Realtors, and I think it's maybe because we both have a V in our name, and it's the not as common.
No,
I
it
don't know
is.
for sure.
I think it's the
We're height.
height.
Yeah. He has
Our
hair. I don't. He's married to an agent in your market. Like, but multiple times I have been called Gavin, and I
yes.
usually just let it slide. But Anne will a minute or two later be like, "Oh my gosh, I just called you the wrong name." And I mean, came up to me at an event we had, and
Yeah.
Anne goes, "I told my husband I was not going to mess up your name today." She's like, "So Gavin, I will not call you anything but Gavin." And you have your hands on my shoulder, and I could see your focus and your intent. And I said, "But Anne, I'm Travis," and you just your shoulders drop. So when it's a name issue, I don't blame you as much. But we were at this Cedar Rapids Association of Realtors dinner, wonderful Italian restaurant. We've been doing a training all day long. I got invited to be a dinner guest, and the
Yes.
current Cedar Rapids Association president, Chris, was talking about the origin of his last name, and he was telling us, his name's Chris Terrakina, but Chris was sitting next to Ann and said his last name was Okinawan, and Ann is flabbergasted. She's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Say it again." And he's like, "It's Okinawan." And you are just staring at him, completely thrown off, and you say,
Face.
"Chris, this whole time I thought your name was Tirakina. I didn't know your last name was Okinawan. And poor Chris wasn't sure if you were messing with him or not. He is looking at you. I am doing everything I can not to lose it. And a couple other people at the table are looking around saying, like, is she being serious or not? And you look at him one last time and you say, is your last name Tirakina or is it Okinawan? And he
I
said, my
can't.
name's Tirakina.
I can't. I
He goes,
can't.
and it comes from Okinawa. He's like, and my family's from Hawaii.
Oh
Our
my
last
God.
name is Okinawan.
Seriously.
And it was, I'll never forget it, Ann, because I
We'll
think
never forget it. We'll
it was
always
such a
have
good, just who is Ann? Like, it was just such a great moment because we're all cracking up. You're wildly embarrassed. And then you're like, you know what? I don't care. I'll talk about it later. This is good stuff. And we
Oh
love
my God. Yes.
it.
Wildly embarrassed. I'm like flushing right now because I'm
It made me so
so
happy. And we still
embarrassed.
don't forget it. We still talk about Chris being Okinawan. Good.
And to my defense, which there's no defense, but if there is one little sliver of defense, we have a gentleman in our brokerage. His last name is Zappo, but it's spelled Capouch. And
Right.
so
So you never know that Okinawan might not be pronounced Turkina. Like it could be a thing, Ann.
wine was involved. I am not an asshole,
That's a
actually.
hundred percent accurate.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for always being so patient and
I
kind to me,
absolutely.
laughing with me, laughing at me. I mean, it is what it is.
And we
But
love your energy. So it makes it easy when you're positive and you're energetic, and we know that you were not intentionally mocking him. Like it was a pure moment of, oh, have I been doing this
confusion.
as long as I've known you, and then you felt bad that you didn't realize his last
I
name.
felt
Good,
so
good. It
bad.
was very sweet, but ended up being hilarious. So we love it.
Well, yes, you can always count on me to stick my foot in my mouth
We
at
are
any
aware.
point in any day.
That's good.
Well, welcome. Thank you again.
Glad to be here.
When I see you, when I see you, I get excited, inspired, all the things. And
Thank you.
you're such a good speaker. Like for sure you could be a motivational speaker and travel the world. That is
Well,
you.
thanks. I appreciate it. I enjoy getting to be with groups. It's where I meet people like you and people like Chris, but it's where I have met some of my best friends is doing not just small group training, but larger group training and then connecting with people afterwards and getting to know individuals well, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love meeting people and finding out their stories and seeing them do really neat things like what you're doing here. I think is pretty awesome. So
Thank you. I
excited to
don't
meet.
know if you remember, but I did make this announcement in December at the leadership training for the Iowa Realtors. I
I
was like,
know.
I'm going to start a
Yes,
podcast.
you did.
And I'm like, I better start that podcast.
Hey,
Then early January got a little hectic with family stuff, but I did it.
yeah.
And this is, I think, my eighth.
I was
Nope.
gonna say, I was wondering what episode that is. Good. All right. So
I
you're
think
rolling.
you're, I think you're 10.
All
I
right.
think you're double digits.
I
So
love it.
thank
Good.
you
Good for
again for
you.
being here.
Yeah.
And like I told you, the purpose of this is to just really celebrate. There's so much negativity about realtors and our profession, and I just outside of what we do, right? Like the news is always blah blah blah, and it's like no,
Yeah.
we we volunteer 3 times more than the average community member.
Mhm.
We work, play, live, breathe in our community, and we want it to be a success. And
Right.
so, really, having you
Yeah.
here is just epic for me. So, thank you.
I'm glad to be here. But you're right. And we'll go back in time a little bit. Back in 2020, I was part of the National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy. And as part of that, you get grouped with other leaders from across the country that are attending this. So across the 50 states plus Puerto Rico, we had a group of 21 of us that all came together. And part of this academy, that's a year-long academy, is you have to do a what they call the capstone project. And so you had to find an issue or something that you wanted to improve, and then you had to do a lot of research and not just like, is this a worthy project, but what are financial ramifications? How does this benefit either the Realtor Association or the Realtor brand? And
Oh my
bring up the
gosh.
negativity, but the volunteer part of it. The capstone project that I created and then helped with my group put together was a way to track how much realtors are volunteering within their communities. And so the project was launched and it needs to be relaunched by the National Association of Realtors. But you went in and you went to an NAR page, and when you went to that page, you entered in your name, your location, what it was you did, how many hours you spent doing it. And it could
Mhm.
be anything that was giving back to your communities in a volunteer position. So it could be like you volunteering at your local realtor association, volunteering at your state association, but also volunteering within your communities. And so,
Mhm.
my favorite part of all of this is they created a heat map. And so you would start to see like where are realtors volunteering a whole bunch, and like you'd see huge red dots. And Iowa looked really, really good because our realtors are phenomenal at being involved. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm probably most proud of, and it's why I wanted it as a capstone project. Because, like you said, almost 3 times more than an individual from any other industry, realtors volunteer.
Of
Part of it's because we have the flexibility in our schedules, but the other part is
course.
we know how important it is to our communities, and it
Mhm.
helps with our housing when we have communities where volunteers step up and do beautification projects, and they coach kids, and they show up in the schools. And so it was neat seeing that. But what was even cooler is just hovering over the heat spots and zooming in and seeing what was happening in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and what was happening in small town Iowa, but then also going and seeing what was happening in Rhode Island and seeing what was happening in Oregon, and then looking back, oh, that's something I could do. So it's a great way to learn, but it's also why I love this podcast, because you get to see what other realtors are doing.
Mhm.
Great for our industry, great for the public, but also great to say, oh, that realtor in Cedar Rapids is doing that. I think that's maybe something we should talk about and doing in our community. And I
Mhm.
love the collaboration, and it's very unique within the realtor industry because we are competing when
Right.
you've got the seller, I've got the buyer. There is a level of competition, but what supersedes that is the level of cooperation and collaboration of, and like we both want to make this happen for our clients. Let's figure it out. But then we also have that element of outside of transactions. Hey, I saw that you do this in your business model. Like, tell me a little bit about that. And
Mhm.
agents don't pretend it's a secret. They don't hide it back and be like, sorry, I can't give
Yeah.
you the ingredients to my secret sauce. It's, hey, here it is. Do you want me to send all of the Google Docs and sheets that I use? Like, do you want me to send you the books? And it's this
Right.
level of, I also want you to succeed because there is plenty of pie out there for us to all eat. I don't need you to fail so that I can be successful. I actually want you to also be a phenomenal realtor because I know that that is going to benefit our whole industry. It's going to benefit your community. And guess what? It's going to benefit the clients that you have, because I don't want your clients to have a bad experience. I want it to be phenomenal for them. So when they walk away and say, I loved my realtor and everything went
Right.
great, and I can't wait to support them in whatever they're going to do, that's actually better for all of us. So it's why
Absolutely.
I champion kind of the realtor cause and what we do in our communities, because I know what we do is pretty stinking significant. So it's fun to watch.
It really is. It really is. And all of that. And you know what I have gained by volunteering in the realtor community is friendships,
For sure.
business
Yeah.
relationships. I know these people and how they perform because of volunteering.
Yes.
And so it just makes those transactions so much easier too. And again, that's just one little piece of why we do what we do. But doing that, I just think it's so important for realtors to maybe think about that as they're planning out the rest of their year. What can you do? How can you collaborate with your fellow agents in a non-competitive way where we're all, raising money for the scholarship program or, whatever it is. And so I just love it. And I love that you recognize and share your knowledge because we can only benefit from it. And I like to say that it's not copying. It's like, uh, you know, it's enhancing something that you're doing into making it my own. So I just appreciate that that's the kind of human you are and the kind of realtor. So
Well,
thank
and
you.
I think that all of us would be surprised how many of the realtors in our industry are just like that, that they do
Mhm.
care about their relationship, and they do want to help others succeed. But sometimes we're fortunate because we've got to meet through being involved. And it's how I've got to meet members of your team through being involved and members in Cedar Rapids. But unfortunately, there are some members that are kind of sitting back and saying, "Oh, you know what? Like, I don't know if they could use my skills, and I don't know if I'm
Right.
the right person for that." And I'm sitting over here saying, like, "Listen, like, we can use everybody in some
Mhm.
capacity. Like, what brings you
Mhm.
joy? What are you good at? Let's sit down
Right.
and utilize that." And for some people, they're like, "Ah, like being in front of people and talking, not my thing."
Right.
Perfect. We don't need everybody to do that. So if you are someone that likes working behind the scenes, and what I remind people is that that's every organization. That's not just the realtor organization. So,
Mhm.
if you like doing marketing in Canva, but you don't want to be in front of people or you don't even want to have to really talk to people, there are opportunities to get involved in not-for-profit organizations as a volunteer that need people that can do that part of it.
Mhm.
Because if they don't have that volunteer, they're paying someone else to do that. And what does that mean? It's less funds available
Right.
to move forward their purpose. And so I love seeing when people step up and say, "Hey, like I can do this. Could you use me?" Like, absolutely. Come
Yeah.
on board. Like you like reading bylaws, you like rewriting bylaws, get over here because 95% of the other groups, like I don't even know how to read those things. And so there is a spot for everybody that has a passion to
Mhm.
improve,
Mhm.
where others are and where their community is and where they are in life. And I get excited
Mhm.
to see that happen. And it's why this industry motivates me and inspires me because I see realtors everywhere doing incredible things, not just because it's going to benefit their business, even though it is,
Right.
not just because they're going to create awesome relationships, because they are, but in the end, it's because somebody else's life is going to be better because of the work they did. And that's a
Mhm.
phenomenal approach to take every day.
And then let's just go into it. So we were talking as we were getting ready to shout out a neighbor that's doing amazing things. So let's just shout out the
Do
neighbor that
that
you are
now.
recognizing.
Yes, my dear friend Beth Gilbreth, up in the Dubuque area. She started this now, I think close to not quite 10 years ago, but it's called the Red Basket Project. And at first, I had to get more information from Beth when I first heard about it, but it's phenomenal. And what Beth had found, she was out to lunch with some friends, and one of the friends had mentioned that they heard there's actually a very high percentage of high school girls that don't have access to period products. And so,
Right.
because they don't have access, they don't go to school. So,
Right.
for a period, every single month, they're missing school, not because they don't want to be there, but because they don't have access to what they need to be able to get through a school day,
Mhm.
which is mind blowing and sad, because we hear about food insecurity. We know that kids are hungry, and we know that
Right.
adults are hungry, and we work really hard in communities to make sure that they have food. But it was the personal hygiene products and specifically period products that Beth looked around and said, "Well, I think I can make a difference here. What if I start to reach out to other individuals and other businesses and start reaching out to vendors and saying, hey, we want to buy bulk. And then we're going
Mhm.
to come in and we are going to create period packs. We're going to create packs that will be available in the schools free of charge in red baskets, hence the Red
Mhm.
Basket Project. And I'm doing a public service announcement for Red Bat, but I'm just so impressed with what
Yeah.
they've done in the fact that they've utilized their local realtor association because Beth's a realtor in Dubuque. But they've also gotten community members to hop in and not just financially, but in their hours and in their time. So they see a lot of girls that come from the high school and say, hey, like we want to help. Because a lot of times it's not actually the money that the Red Basket Project needs, although they love donations.
Right.
So we need the time to put all these packs together so they're at the schools ready to go. And so they've expanded. So obviously, over half of the Dubuque County lives below the poverty line, which for people are like, whoa, like Dubuque, super nice. Like, how can we
Yeah.
half of that area? So when they started thinking about that, they're like, well, we can't just have this be for high school girls, because this also means that there are women in our community that also don't have access. And so then they started partnering with other organizations and saying, okay, like how many single moms do we have right now that need this? And then how do we expand that to more? And in the time that they've had this established and running, over 90,000 period packs have been handed out. I mean,
Wow.
90,000 is incredible. But we had this conversation before we started. What's even more phenomenal, like Beth is, like I said, she's been recognized so many times, but not enough times. But she's also just so passionate about this is a program that could be picked up and dropped into every single community because this need exists in every single community. I'm in a town of 6,000, and I can tell you because of conversations that I've had with our school counselors and our superintendents who they're phenomenal about finding access to hygiene products and period products, but they could drop this program into my town and it would help a significant number of high school girls and mothers. And so you start looking at that, you're like, wow, this is a program that Beth created and has a full board of directors. It has annual sponsors, but we could take this and put it into every single community. And I think that's what's not average about this is we see times where a phenomenal person creates an incredible not-for-profit organization, but it is so intricate and complex that there's no way I could look at that and say, okay, you know what, I can also do that here. Like it's not a plug and play, but this is, and Beth is adamant that like Dubuque is the start. She wants to see where do we grow this to so that we start making such an impact that more girls are in school and they're not self-conscious and embarrassed and they don't have to ask, because that was the other part is these girls didn't want to go to a guidance counselor or the office and say, hey, like I need a pack. It was waiting for them.
Yeah.
And seeing that it wasn't taken advantage of, and it
Yeah.
was these girls that if they didn't need them, they didn't take them. And you know what? It might have also been a girl that could afford them, but had forgotten them at home or wasn't expecting
Right,
them, and
right,
right there
right.
waiting. And so it's just such an impactful, and it's not complex.
Important.
Right.
I mean,
Super
it's
important.
important for self-confidence and
Right.
for, all of the things. It's
We know
not
how hard
easy
it is to be a
being,
teenage girl anyway, but to be
yeah,
a teenage
exactly.
girl that can't go to school because they can't afford the products and now they're missing out and they come back and they're falling behind and they
Right.
have not just their teachers on their case about missing school once a month for a few days, but they also now have their parents saying, well, like you got to figure this out because we can't afford this. It's a sad thing, but to see
It
what Beth's
is.
done, it brings so much hope that this is something that we can do to help. And it's things that you
Yeah.
wouldn't normally think of, right? Like if
Right.
I was brainstorming, how can I help kids in my community? This wouldn't have been something that I had thrown up onto a whiteboard. I never would have thought of this. And now you have
No.
Beth saying, like, we've helped 90,000 times make a
Wow.
difference. And I mean, continually. And the coolest part too is you see dads and men within their boards that are showing up and saying, hey, like I want to throw these together. The stigma around it is leaving,
Yeah.
which is incredible because there shouldn't be one. Like this is a natural thing
Mm-mm.
that guess what happens.
Hmm.
And so to see, because that's, I mean, I think of, the stereotype of men being, uncomfortable going and buying a box of tampons at the grocery store. Like, how
Hmm.
silly is that that's supposed to not be normal and it's considered awkward? And here you've got guys showing up, and I mean, realtors in the Northeast, or sorry, in East Central Iowa, Dubuque area, they're showing up and they're like, yeah, I'm going to make as many of these things as I can, and next time I can volunteer, I'll be back to put together as many packs as possible again.
Oh my God, that's
So
awesome.
cool to see.
So
And it's yeah, so
tell
like
me.
I was so excited to be able to shout that out. And there's so many
Yeah,
people that I could shout out of what they're doing, but this is
sure.
one where I want one person to hear it and be like, ooh, like I want to go to
Yeah,
the website. I want to see how they're doing this. I want to reach out to Beth and I want to do this in my community because I know that I can. And I know that it's not something that's going to be so difficult and time consuming that I'm going to start strong and then I'm going to flutter out. This is where you can build some pretty big momentum because people are like, yeah, I can volunteer and it doesn't take any more work than standing in an assembly line.
yeah, for sure. And it just gave me a really good idea. Keller Williams does it. No pun intended. They do a red day. So maybe that's a micro project that we'll work on May 8th just to make some.
Right.
so
Yeah.
easy. And, even just, uh, to each person taking them to a school closest to them and just saying, this is a gift, and everything. So Beth is her name. And how do we reach out to her?
Yeah, so it's redbasketproject.com. And
Okay.
they've got contact there. It's got their board of directors, which is impressive because it's not just a group of a few women that are doing it. It's like they've created a board of directors that
Wow.
oversees this and looks at how do we strategically grow this so that we're making the biggest impact possible. And they've partnered with the schools. And you kind of said like going to your school. Like, that's what they went to and said, hey, is this a problem? And for the most part, they got a little bit of a, I don't know. And then they went to the guidance counselors, and the guidance counselors like, absolutely, right?
Mhm.
These girls aren't missing school because they don't want to be here. They're missing
Right.
school because they can't. And unfortunately, because of our demographics of our school, we can't afford to just have these available kids.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that was the other part is it started creating more conversations between professionals in the community and the schools of how can we help the kids, because you know what, if we can help them now, then they're going to have more confidence, they're going to come into our workforce, they're going to want to help others, and then it
Mhm.
just keeps getting better. And so yeah, the
Amen.
website's great. Beth was like other realtors that we've had, like Raymond, have been recognized by the
Yes.
National Association of Realtors, by Good Neighbors, have been recognized locally for the work that they do.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to keep doing, because it's not just the work, it's also recognizing the people that do the work, so that others get inspired by it. Because if we don't talk about it, they're going to keep doing the work. But now that we talk about it, we hope that one person,
Just one person.
like if one
Right.
person starts doing this and says, wow, like I want to do this now, that was worth it. And so I'm very excited to hopefully help Beth grow what she's doing.
I love it. I had no idea. I had heard about it.
Yeah.
I have not had the pleasure of meeting her in person yet, but now that just
Sweetest
gets
lady
me.
ever. She's so nice. So nice.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
I'm
does a
sure.
great, I mean,
And
her real
so,
estate's phenomenal, but I think her real estate's phenomenal because also she cares about her clients in the same way she cares about these clients that, or sorry, these strangers that she's not going to meet within
right.
this. It's that level of care that realtors do want to help other people live better
Mhm.
lives. Like it's a
Mhm.
cool thing to see in our industry. So I'm excited for you to meet her. I'm also excited, obviously,
Yeah.
for people just to check out what she does.
Yes. Thank you so much. So
Oh,
let's go back to my first kind of question is I want to know more about you and your journey and how it's going as El
yeah,
Presidente of the
yeah,
Iowa Realtors.
yeah.
And let's just talk about some good news happening in our community.
Absolutely. So, I mean, my journey was I was one of those kids that was involved in everything. And early on, and I don't know kind of what led me into that, but I would be involved in, especially as I got to middle school and then high school, the organizations that were opportunities not just to meet more kids, but opportunities to kind of take leadership positions. And so leadership has always intrigued me in kind of the wide range of what leadership is, but also in how leadership development works. So, I think back to being student council president when I was in seventh and eighth grade, but then getting into high school and going to leadership development conferences and reading books on leadership development. I remember as like an eighth grader and a freshman, and I look back now, I'm like, well, that's weird, right? Like I love to read, but weird that that's something that I was drawn to. And
Mhm.
so, through high school, leading organizations and kind of being uh, not just the spokesperson, but the person that took the wins and took the losses. And when people said like, wow, like you guys had that event and nobody showed up, you're like, yep, I got to figure out like how to make that better next time. How do we? And so that happened. And then I got to the University of Iowa and kind of felt like, hey, this is going to be a really nice time to not be in a leadership position. And that lasted about a year and a half. And then it just happened that I got involved with a couple student organizations. And then as I was involved, I'm like, this is where my passion exists in becoming a leader. But then what I was always more excited about was training the leaders that are coming after me. And that's where I've learned that within my brokerage in the real estate community, but also within our national or our state association, my favorite part of my involvement is looking at other individuals who are raising their hand and saying, like, where do I fit in helping them find their spot, and then finding the ones that say, hey, like, I know I fit in, but I think I want to get to a level where, I'm leading. And that can look a lot of different ways. But I love helping people develop that, better understand themselves, and then how do they thrive by doing things that they love. And so that's a big piece of it. It's where I've kind of ended up now, is just by being involved and getting to know more people. Being like, this is a good time to go through this process and know that there's so many great people that are lined up behind me, that when I'm done in another 8 months, I just had a Zoom right before this where somebody mentioned, they're like, well, you're in this position 8 months. And I'm like, wow, like, I'm already a third of the way done from a process that's taken 5 years. Uh, but it's exciting for me because I know that there's great leaders coming, and I get to help build all of the future leaders at the local and state level because of what I do at our Iowa Association. So
Mhm.
that's where I've gotten to where I am now, which I love. But it's been an interesting 13, 14 months in real estate, obviously, with all of the changes, and
Mhm.
changes keep coming. And
Mhm.
I think that the part of what I enjoy is the problem solving, but the knowing that I'm not on an island, that we have really great local leaders that want to collaborate and figure out how do we best approach dealing with all of these changes that are
Mhm.
taking place. But then we also have leaders at state level and staff that are problem solvers and saying, hey, like, this is a change, and we don't get to decide terms of lawsuits. How do we best navigate this? How do we adapt so that as many of our members come out in the end in a better spot than they were? And that's what I've really enjoyed through this process. So it's just
A perfect position for you to be in at
it's
this
work.
time of our ever-changing rules and regulations.
Yes.
I'm just so impressed with you.
Well,
And
thank you.
I'll
And
just stop bragging about how much I'm impressed with you.
well, it's and the other part that helps is I am one of those oddballs that, like, I do love bylaws, and I do love reading like legislation that could be coming, and I love reading like administrative rules that affect that legislation, and risk management and law update. Like, those are my favorite things about this industry, which most people are like, don't want to touch it, right? That's and so and I've talked about this kind of within my company, but like, I don't like sales, right? So when I was as an agent, like, I didn't like showing houses, and I didn't get joy from getting properties under contract and getting to the closing table. Like, that wasn't what I liked. And so I was unique in that I liked compliance and figuring out how do we best protect our clients, how do we best protect other agents in the industry, and then how do we best protect the brand so that people don't look at realtors and be like, you're only in this for the next commission check, which I know is not the case, but there's a perception out there. And so that's why I like being where I'm at, of helping train leaders to help others understand, but also looking kind of on the behind the scenes, like, what are we doing that is causing this lack of confidence and this low public perception? And so it's a unique space to be in, but I wouldn't change it. Like, I like the chaos, and I like this morning, like I said, we had an hour and a half Zoom that probably could have gone for 3 hours, that's looking at very minute details of the industry. But like, I love that, where other people are like, don't make me do that. So we fit in
Yes.
best where we need to be at the right times, and it's happening right now for me. So I'm very fortunate to be in this position.
The stars aligned, I think, for you. And it's so great to have you have our backs. So thank you.
Sure.
Um, with all of the chaos, what's a good thing that you are excited about for us as realtors in Iowa or at the National Association? Give us some good news.
Gosh, there's so much. I mean, there's so much good news, and
Yes.
and the biggest piece of this is 12 months ago, 13 months ago, we were very nervous about
Mhm.
what the changes to how we do business and how the MLS functions. And also because it is important how we as realtors make a living and get paid. And there were so many unknowns. And our
Mhm.
state association, with our staff, with our legislators, with our lobbyists, with some really great actual people in Congress, And our
Mhm.
committees all came together and said, okay, we've got work to do. And
Mhm.
that was one of my probably proudest moments over the course of the last 12 months is how many people stepped up and said, all right, let's get to work. Like this can't be something that we drag along and eventually make a decision on. Like we have
We
to
got to do it.
quickly
Yeah.
because it wasn't just protecting our members and non-members, but it was also the public needed to know how are we going to function and how are we not going to take advantage of them? Because that was a real concern from buyers and sellers
Mm.
is how do I make sure that my agent is not using changes to take this into something that benefits them more than me. And so
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so many of our different committees at the state level and local levels all stepped up and said, let's do the things that are going to be the most positive and impactful and beneficial within real estate as an entire industry for both the professionals and the public. And so we've seen over the course of the last 12 months that it's worked. And we're still working out kinks, and we knew that would be the case. But in general, like things have gone on really well, and agents are in a market that's not doing exceptionally better. Agents are still doing well, and so even though closed sides, if we go year over year, are down and they're up a little month over month, agents are still understanding the changes and doing well with that. And other concern is that we were going to see a whole bunch of real estate professionals leave because it got too hard. And
Mhm.
yes, we've seen a decline, but that's natural. But for the most part, people are saying, hey, like I want to learn, I want to do this right. And so that's exciting for us from a state level to see so many people saying, like, teach me and train me. Like, I'm going to show up for class. I want to make sure I'm doing what's right by the law and what's right by clients. So that's
And the
exciting.
public.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just, last year it was scary and it was
Yeah.
uncertain and it was, all of these things. And then the information came out and we had the training and we understood it. And I can't tell you, I love it. I love having that conversation and talking to
Yeah.
my clients, potential clients, like, listen, we're going to talk about this. This is, and I just think we probably should have done it a long time ago, but
We
maybe I
should have.
shouldn't say
And other states
that.
had, right? So other states had already done this and they looked at us and they're like, oh man, like, yeah, you guys do have some work to do because you're not already doing this. But what it did is it raised the level of professionalism. We did raise the bar in the industry because we've been talking about it for years. Like, how do we become better realtors? How do we better serve our clients? And this got us to the point where we do have to be able to explain how we provide value because we knew as realtors we provide
Right.
incredible value.
Right.
We just didn't always explain it because we never really had to. And now, especially from a buyer's representative piece, like we explain, here's what I am doing for you. And it's number one, why you want me, but two, why I deserve to be paid for what I'm doing. Because
Right.
they do a lot of work. And for a long time, it happened all behind the scenes. So buyers didn't realize what we were doing for them.
Yes.
Now it's kind of it's increased transparency really throughout the
Yes.
profession of, okay, you guys do work really hard and you do have to know way more than we expected you as real estate agents to have to know. And so it has validated what we do, but it's also raised awareness of there is a level of professionalism that we expect and agents are now meeting that. So that's
Yeah.
the last 12 months of kind of what's been most exciting, but really just within the last few weeks, seeing legislation that's going to help home buyers and sellers
Hmm.
hold inspectors more accountable
Hmm.
for what they're
Hmm.
doing. And we know we've got some incredible inspectors out there that are saying yes, like we have
Yeah.
needed this in place.
Hmm.
We can't require licensing for them, but we've said you need to belong to a national organization. You need to carry insurance, insurance in case you make a mistake.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, like you need to register with the state so the state knows all these things. And all that's doing is allowing us to have better relationships with inspectors because we need them, right? If I'm
Right.
representing a buyer, I need that inspector. But if I am on the list side or if I'm a seller, I want a very good inspector that knows what they're doing and is
Right.
taking continuing ed to do the inspection on that property. Because at the end, if they are knowledgeable, they bring forward a report, and I look at it, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like this is good. And clearly they are educated on what they're doing. It makes me as a seller much more comfortable
Mhm.
discussing, negotiating, and working through those requests versus if when we've all seen those, some inspection reports are like,
Mhm.
like this,
Yep.
number one, doesn't really tell us anything, but two, some of this stuff doesn't actually seem like an issue. And then we start questioning the competency of an inspector. It doesn't help either side. So
No.
we're helping them raise the bar because they've been looking around as inspectors and saying, hey, like I'm really good at this. I take I really take care to ensure that I'm providing a great value and great product. But this guy over here doesn't have to even be held to the same standard.
Right.
So it's what we've
Right.
done in real estate. We've raised the bar and say, hey,
Mhm.
step up, or you probably need to leave the industry. Inspectors are looking and saying, okay, this is what's going to do it now. I either have to step up as inspector or I need to get out. And most of our inspectors are like, hey, I've already taken 4 or 5
Right.
steps. I've already taken those. This just helps protect the public so that they're not using someone over here that isn't trying to be great at what they do. So very excited
Right.
about that. And I know that's, again, it gets into the weeds of like that's
Yeah.
just a piece of legislation, but it's legislation that has effects on listing agents, on buyers agents, on buyers and sellers, and it helps move transactions to the goal of everyone, and that's to close. So we're
Mhm.
pretty happy about that piece of it and exciting.
And we have such great staff that work very hard at the Capitol. And
For sure.
shout out to Greta
Yes,
and to Jen. They're amazing.
they are
And we're
amazing.
so lucky to have them fighting for not only our rights, but the rights of the community. So,
Well, and you're obviously our Iowa Realtors RPAC vice chair, which is huge. You are in a state position where
yeah.
next year your goal is to help oversee and support all of the local fundraising. And it's a good time to talk about it because for most realtors, they know it's something they need to invest in, but they don't fully understand like what is
Mhm.
RPAC and why am I expected? And I remind people because I am fortunate enough that I get to see this at the state, but also the national level of the federal level of how we support the education of candidate or not candidates of our politicians.
Mhm.
And it's a big deal. And I remind everybody that they are just inundated with groups that want to push their legislation. And they are, I mean, even at the state level, hit with so many different bills. And so the job of Greta and Jen, and then as us as realtor leadership, is to help them sift through it and say, hey, this is why this matters to your constituents. You need to pay attention to
Mhm.
this because the people in your district are going to think this is really important. And so we build those relationships at the state and national level. And he's on the other side of the state from us, but Randy Feenstra in the northwest side of Iowa has become a huge realtor advocate, not because he just wants to be friends with us, which he does because we're awesome, but he's saying, you know what, like you guys know what the people in my area care about the most. And so I need you to be another set of boots on the ground because if flood insurance is a major issue right now, then I'm going to talk about flood insurance. And if insurance costs for homeowners insurance is a barrier to home ownership, then I want to talk about that. So we're seeing yeah, Ashley Hinson is great in the Cedar Rapids area of going back to Courtney Blair, her FPC, and saying, all right, like what do the realtors care about right now? Because that's also like what the people care about, right? I'm like, yeah, it is. And so we remind everybody that Greta and Jen, and even at the national level, when we raise our PAC funds, most of those funds, yes, they help cover the cost of campaigns because they are unfortunately unbelievably expensive. But
Mhm.
a lot of those funds actually go to educating and preparing and lobbying, but that's the education piece, letting our legislators know why this legislation is so important. Some property tax reform, insurance reform, flood insurance reform, lead pipe reform. Like there's so many
Yeah.
pieces where
Yeah.
we need to ensure that our legislators are fully aware. And that's where RPAC investments go. It's not to buy candidates and to have them support.
Right.
That doesn't work because we're talking these elections are so expensive that the contributions we make aren't game changers. What they are is it's enough to get us their ear, and then we send the people that know what we care about out to explain it. And that's why I'm so passionate, and so are you about RPAC. Is we know that it allows our voice to be at the table,
Hmm.
know that we are heard because the public needs us, right? Like
Right.
there's nobody out there that's representing homeowners and saying, hey, we've got a homeowners organization that needs to go and lobby. We're a home buyers, a first time home buyers pack that we need to go lobby. That's us. Like we
Hmm.
look at how can we help first time buyers? How do we help the housing accessibility and the housing affordability crisis? Like what can we do? And that's what RPAC does. And it's why
Hmm.
I've been passionate about that for a long time. It's why I get excited when people like you raise your hand and say yes, like I
Yeah.
want to help, because you see the benefits of being
Yeah.
involved. So very
Yeah.
excited for that too.
Oh, yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
You've got a great group to work with. Like that's you've got
Yes,
Nick
yes.
Pollum and Courtney Blair
Oh
and
my
you,
God,
and
I'm
you've got
so
just fun
fortunate.
people that are like, hey, let's go and
Yeah.
make an impact.
Yes, yes. And this year is my first year I'm going to come out to DC as well. So I'm
Yes.
looking forward to that and just growing and and getting that message out that it's
Yeah.
it's not about buying people. And
Right.
for the most part, like it's pretty split, pretty even.
Oh yeah, it
It
is.
is
Yeah.
about, it's not about me. It's
Yeah.
about our community.
Yeah.
Okay. I get really tired of people like accusing me, like, how can I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I am just a little speck in this larger thing called life. And I want to make sure that everyone knows and
Yeah.
everyone is able to, like you said, afford housing, fight for those rights. It's so important. It's not, yeah.
It is, and I like seeing your excitement about this because it is so important for people to understand, and because PACs do get such a bad name, right? Like they get
Mhm.
such a bad rep for being what's going out there, and they're doing usually in the minds of the public one of two things: they're buying votes
Right.
so that whatever our agenda is gets passed, or they're out and they are negatively influencing campaigns by trashing the competition, and that's not what
Hmm.
in our pack. We make sure that people that support the private property rights and the real estate industry, yes, we support them with campaign funds, but more than that, we make sure we get to sit down and we send our lobbyists who really are educators and say, hey, in the simplest of terms, this is what this legislation is and this is why it's so important. And that's when you mentioned going to DC, that's exactly what we do. We go out to DC and we'll meet with Ashley Henson and we'll meet with Senator Grassley and Senator Ernst and we'll meet with our other three US representatives and we'll say, hey, on the most basic terms, here's legislation that's coming that matters to Iowans. And yes, there is a real estate piece of this, but it's not about protecting us. It's about what's going to be best for the people in your districts or people in Iowa, because that's really what we want to make sure we're doing is protecting our public. It's really the goal of us as a brand because we know it's going to benefit our profession in almost every single community we're in. So very excited.
Hmm.
Glad you're gonna go.
Awesome. Yes, I'm excited too. So
Good.
I think we have ran out of time.
No, this was great. This was fun.
Again, that's why I put a timer on because I feel like we could just talk for hours. But I just want to say thank you so much for all of your leadership, your inspiration, your wonderful personality, and always having fun as well as working very hard.
Thank
And
you.
just thanks again for saying yes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and thank you for doing this because we know that there's other things you could be doing, but like I talked about, recognizing the people that are doing great and that are helping their communities and being not average is really important. And so I'm
Yes.
really glad you're doing this just to highlight all of the incredible impact that we are all making within our communities because that's it's where we make change. It's not where we're out doing these huge things at the national level. It's where we're in our towns and we are supporting the people that want to make big differences. And we got
And good news. We need more good news.
we
So
do
that's
need.
what I'm trying to do is just
Well, I appreciate it.
share that vibe so that people don't give up.
Thank you.
And hopefully, hopefully we will get some red basket ambassadors, and that's very exciting. And I will see you, gosh, I'll see you in DC for sure, but maybe before then.
You'll probably see
Who
me somewhere
knows?
around Cedar Rapids before that, but you will absolutely see me in DC. We're gonna have a good time.
Okay. Well,
Perfect.
thank
And thank
you.
you.
Have a great rest of your day. And neighbors, don't forget to like, share, follow all the things. Follow Not Your Average Neighbor on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Spotify. And you can see our faces on Spotify, FYI. And then that YouTube channel is going to be up and running a day. So very exciting. Have a great week, neighbors. We'll talk to you next week.